Namaste, DDs. My name is Sherry Sutton, and I am your business growth guide. Here today to talk about e-commerce. So I have a lot of clients who maybe they've had a business for a little bit and they're like, should I expand into e-commerce? Does it make sense for my business? And so I wanted to put together a little training on just some considerations, things you should think about when deciding whether or not to go into e-commerce. I absolutely recommend when making a decision like this, it's a big decision, that you hire somebody like me, right, who has been there, done that. I have launched many businesses on e-commerce, right? Both that have succeeded and have failed, and created many websites and launched many e-commerce sites. So I would love to chat with you, kind of show you the ins and outs of what works, what doesn't work, whether it'll work for your business. But I wanted to share with you just a couple of the high level considerations as you're making the decision. So I'm going to put up my slides here. All right. Let's talk a little bit about e-commerce first, sort of ground ourselves in the numbers. Something that I love to do anytime I'm either putting together a business strategy for someone or their marketing strategy is really like, what do the numbers and the research tell us? Because our best guess, who knows, right? Okay, so e-commerce has had a huge jump during the pandemic, right? Obviously, we couldn't go into the stores, and so a lot of people moved to e-commerce. So there was an 18% jump in business-to-business sourcing and selling online between late 2019 and late 2020. Not a huge surprise with the pandemic, but it's continued, right? US consumers spent 32% more online in 2020 than in the year prior. And this really hasn't slowed down, right? Even though we've gone, sort of back to and some, our normal lives, whether anything's, normal again, we got used to buying things on e-commerce, right? I can tell you, I barely go to stores anymore, right? I have continued to buy things online, and I'm sure you have a lot of the same experiences as well, and it shows in the numbers. In the fourth quarter of 2020, one in every $5 was spent on retail purchases that were happening online. So we're seeing that e-commerce is a great opportunity for a lot of businesses, but there are considerations that you have to think about, especially if you have an existing business. So let's dive into 3 of those considerations, though of course there are many others. Okay, so the first one is the customer experience. And really, you have to ask yourself, does my audience, want to even buy my product online? Because sometimes there's a difference, right, between buying products online and scheduling online. For many of my clients in particular, buying online might be a stretch for them, but scheduling online absolutely makes sense, right? Or having a combination of the two. But sometimes you need to have either a conversation first, or you need to actually touch and feel the product, right? So do people need to see, taste, touch the product first? And or do they need to communicate with you first? I'll give you an example. Like in my business, I generally, I have some things that you can buy online, but it's often after first people finding me through something else. We often will have some sort of a conversation first, just because of the price point of my products, right? It's a little bit higher. And as your price goes up, the more so people are going to want to have a personal experience with your product before they're willing to buy. And so that's something that you really need to think about, especially coaches, right? The idea that somebody is just going to find you online and spend thousands of dollars, it might happen, especially if you already have a captive audience. But if you don't already have a captive audience, or someone who has bought other things from you or have met with you in the past, it's real difficult to get them to purchase something online as the price point goes up. Something that might be, let's say, $30, sure. But something that is, again, as the price goes up, you need to really ask yourself, do they need to talk to me first? Do they need to see, taste, touch the product first? I worked with a woman recently who does these amazing, it's called Expressive Aromas, and they do these amazing, build your own custom scent kind of things. And so she really wants to do e-commerce, right? Because it's such a great opportunity. But we really went through the process of, okay, well, if you're creating your own custom scent, you really have to smell it, right? And so if we do e-commerce, what does that look like, right? And so for something like that, the first experience might need to be in person, but e-commerce after that makes a lot of sense, because like I created my first custom scent on Sunday when I saw her. It's fantastic. I love it. But now I probably won't go back to seeing her in person to buy things, but e-commerce makes a lot of sense for those ongoing purchases. So you really need to think through, does my customer want to buy online? Does it make sense for them to buy online either from the beginning or on an ongoing basis, right? What does that look like? Maybe my first sale is in person, but then my add-on sales are in e-commerce. Think about clothing, right? I buy a lot of my clothes from Anthropologie, but I actually worked there as a stylist for a little while I was also doing photography. It was so fun. I spent so much money. This is from that era, actually. But I know my sizes there now, right? So once you kind of know your sizes at a place, because they all change all the time, then it's much easier for you to go on to buy online. But often it's tough if you don't know those sizes first. So there might be a world where, yes, you still need to have a storefront, but then, people go to e-commerce. So these are all just things to consider, is what's the customer experience with my product? What's the optimal customer experience with my product? And how would e-commerce fit in with that? Because it might not be from the beginning, right? Or it might be from the beginning and then you upsell them on something else that's in person. You just have to kind of think through the entire customer experience with your products. So the second consideration is return on investment. So both your investment and your return. So building these sites can be very expensive. So you really want to ask yourself, how much and how long will it take me to create a brand and demand? So not only how much will it take me to create the site, and we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes and whether or not you outsource or not, but how long is it going to take me to create a brand that people trust, that they want to buy from? I see so many entrepreneurs who create a product, whether it's a course, this happens a lot, a course or some other kind of product, and they say, okay, I'm just going to build a website and, build it and they will come, right? Is the old adage. And it just doesn't work like that, especially in the e-commerce world. You need to spend a lot of time and money building up a brand that people are going to want to come to. Now, if you have a captive brand already, adding e-commerce is a great option, because now you can, capitalize on your existing customers. But if you don't, you really need to think through not only the creation of the site and obviously all your products and all of the back end, business challenges and cost, but how much will it take you to create a brand that's going to drive people towards it? I see so many clients who come to me and they say, well, I built this thing, but now I have no money to actually drive people to it. You have to think about those things sort of in advance, because if you don't have the money to drive them there, then your site's just going to sit and nobody's going to buy. And then that sucks. Nobody wants to do that, right? Okay. Your next question is, do you build or do you buy? So there's two different options when creating an online store, right? Again, whether it's for courses or whether it's for products. And so the average cost for a custom website, so if you say, you know what, I want to build my own site, right? And I want to be able to update it when I can, and I want it to look a very specific kind of a way, right? I want to hire a designer and really customize it. Those sites are going to cost you anywhere from $1,500 to $6,000. $1,500 is very inexpensive. I would be shocked, especially for an e-commerce site, if you can do that. But you're also going to spend $150 to $300 minimum on hosting, and plus credit card processing fees. So there's quite a bit of a cost to it. The other option is, and I recommend this usually for people who are starting, is to what I call, buy or rent, right? Where you use an existing service to sell your products. So if you have physical products, there's a couple options. One's Spotify, right? But they, again, there's a cost to it. Etsy, Amazon, they all generally have both a base cost as well as they take some sort of a percentage of your sales. Now, it might be worth it for you, right? It might make sense for you to give up 6.5% of your sales on Etsy because it's so much easier to create a site on Etsy than to create your own. This is a really great option for people who are early on or still experimenting with what we were talking about earlier, right? Where do my customers want to buy in their relationship with me, right? In their journey with me, when do they buy? And I'm not really sure if it's this product or that product. So using one of these services is great for that. These are for physical products. If you are doing a service or if you're doing, let's say, a course, there are lots of other options to do that. And they can range anywhere from $100 a month all the way up to, hundreds of dollars a month, just depending on which ones you use. And there are a ton, and I'm happy to share with you some of the systems that I use for my courses and that my other clients have used. I have to tell you, I've spent a lot of money on putting my courses online, maybe really not needing to. And so I'm happy to share that experience with you and the experience of my clients. But that's your third kind of consideration. So I'm going to go back through those considerations really quick. So the first one is, what is your overall customer experience with your product? Do they want to buy? When do they want to buy? What kind of products do they want to buy? Does it make sense that they're just going to instantly buy online? Or do you need to be, creating a one-on-one relationship with them first, right? Maybe it makes sense as an add-on product, something like that. So really thinking through the customer journey with your buying cycle. The second thing is both your investment and the return on your investment. So how much is it going to cost you not only to build the site, but to market the site and to make sure that you have enough capital to run the business as long as it takes to grow that. It's not something that you can just put up a website and the next day you're going to start generating sales. And I did a seminar on this last week. The first year you're usually breaking even, the first year you usually lose a little money. The second year you break even, and the third year you pay back the money that you spent in the first year because you're making a little profit. And after that is when you really start being able to bring in some money. So you want to make sure that you've got enough funding to pay yourself, right? To make sure the business can continue to run during that. As well as obviously generally kind of a high marketing cost. Again, that really depends on the flow of your business, how people are finding you. Do they already know about you? Do you already have a captive audience? And these are all things we could work on together. And then the third question is, do I build or do I buy a system to make my e-commerce dreams a success, right? And have them come to fruition? This was a very high level, 15-minute or so overview of some of the things you need to think about if you're considering e-commerce. I hope that this was helpful. I hope it got you thinking a little bit. If you guys need some help kind of thinking through this a little bit more, that is my superpower. Again, I have been doing digital marketing and launching websites for, I hate saying this, but for nearly 30 years. And so I have done this in all different industries, from presidential campaigns to online gaming to, online home security. So I really understand, the best way to market your businesses online. And I'd love to help you. I work primarily with clients one-on-one to help them figure out what is the ideal business and marketing strategy for them to get the most clients at the least cost. And that is my superpower. So if that's something you need, give me a holler. My information is below. dd.marketing is my website. You can also just email me at sherry@dd.marketing. And, I'm on all the social channels, so you can direct message me on any of those. And I would love to chat with you. Again, I hope this was super valuable. I do these trainings every single Thursday. So if you have a topic that you would like for me to discuss, put it in the comments below, send me a direct message, reach out to me on any of these places, and I will add it to the list. I hope you have a great day. Talk soon. Bye.